To put it simply, this docuseries can be summed up in 3 words: Blackness, belonging, and connection. In the summer of 2022, when the world was still recovering from COVID-19, we gathered at the historic Dunbar Pavilion in Tucson, Arizona, and created a space with the intention of bringing Black strangers together to recover and restore and to reflect through intergenerational conversations. Here are their stories.
Hi. First card, tell us about yourself.
I'm Mlera, she, her pronouns. I am 19 years old. I am a college student. I am also originally nationality-wise Zimbabwean, but I moved here not too long ago.
Nice. Well, I'm Desiree, she, her pronouns. I am born and raised in Tucson. I am Afro-Latina, my mom is Mexican, my dad is Black, and I'm a yoga instructor, I am a program manager, I love people and I love things like this, and so I'm really excited to be here.
That's amazing. Where have you lived and what brought you to Tucson? For me, before Tucson, I used to live in Montana, and what brought us here was that my dad got a new job at the university, so we all relocated with him.
Yeah, I am born and raised here, but I've traveled a lot, but as far as living in a place long-term, Tucson is pretty much all I know. I was in Phoenix for a short time, but mostly just Tucson is what I know. What is bringing you joy lately?
I think connections, and specifically my younger sister and my 2 closest friends.
Funny, because the first thing that I was going to say was actually my sister. Lately, I've reconnected with my sister after a couple years of not speaking to her, and it has brought so much joy to my life. And I think just in general, like being with family lights me up, and just connecting with others.
That's really nice. How does your creativity express itself?
As long as I can remember, I think I shared this with you too, like as a kid, I was always making things and then trying to sell them. So like creative entrepreneur really fits well for me, I think too. So yeah, I think it's mostly in how I express myself day to day. I consider a creative expression.
For me, I think my creativity expresses itself in who I seek. I like to meet unique people who I can create new experiences with. And I think it adds a lot of value and joy to my life. And I think it's always so cool to find something that you connect with in someone that you thought you couldn't. Yeah. What values, ideas, and traditions would you like to see preserved, and which ones are you happy to see us shifting out of? I think what I like is passion. I think that in every generation, we create something new out of passion. And I like that. And I think it shows up in different ways. And it's healing, whether it be music, art, whatever. We find a way to be passionate so we can help each other. The ones I'm happy to see us shifting out of, I think just being close-minded and narrow. I think with each generation, we're becoming a little more open-minded, and I think that's a good thing. So I have hope for future generations. If they're more open-minded than we are, then perhaps society will be better for people who are existing at that time.
So good. I would say my answer is pretty similar in the sense that that question made me think about the generations in my family, particularly the women, and how it's changed for women in my family generation to generation. And I'm just so grateful that the women in my generation, in my family, are now looking at things like self-preservation and choosing yourself and this realization that you can have it all, like you can have the career and you can have the family. So I would say that.
That's good.
What piece of advice would you give someone who's thinking of moving here?
I would say it takes time to find community and to be patient, but I think eventually you find it.
Yeah, I would say that, and I think that part of what makes a new place or Tucson special is that it's an eclectic mix of everybody bringing their experiences here, and like we have people who are here for a little bit of time, people who are here for a long time, but I would say my advice is stay connected to the roots of where you're from and bring the best parts of that here.
Yes.
And I agree with you, be patient, because it does take time.
What does Blackness mean to you, and what has shaped your Blackness?
Yeah, that's an interesting and a deep one for me. I think being a mixed biracial person, a woman in a predominantly white, or I guess a city in which there's less than 4% Black people, I've always kind of grappled with my identity and with my Blackness, and it's always been this thing that I'm like looking to externally to find like the meaning or how I can fit in. I was never like, you know, and you hear this by mixed biracial people sometimes, they're like, I was never Black enough for the Black people, I was never white enough for the white people. Really and truly, that's how it felt. And so now what I've realized as an adult, the valuable lesson is that Blackness is defined by me, and that I identify as Black, and that means therefore I am a part of this quilt, this collection of what Blackness is, and that I belong there just as much as any other Black identified person.
Yes.
And being myself is enough in all of those spaces. What about you?
Blackness to me, I think, is coupled with adoption and creativity. I think as somebody who moved to the US, adapting and also thinking about how possibly my ancestors adapted to their environment, and I think that's somewhere in me. But also because I'm here, I've also had to create parts of myself with other Black people and like blending that. And so I think that's also how Black people in general across the world are. We create a lot of things and we adapt. And I think that is unparalleled.
In what group spaces and activities do you feel a sense of belonging? What drew you to these groups?
I think at the Dunbar I have, but if anything, I think I find it more on social media. As Gen Z, I can specifically search for what I'm looking for, and so I'm able to find creators and other people like that, and so that way I participate in groups like that.
I feel like as somebody who has struggled with belonging all my life, I have learned that I have to cultivate my own places, my own spaces of belonging. And so oftentimes throughout my life, that is why I'm a creator of space and a holder of space. So you'll see me facilitating things or creating things or launching things because it really is me trying to cultivate a space of belonging for myself and for others that might resonate.
It's very valuable. Tell us about a particularly challenging experience you've had as a Black Tucsonan, and how did you navigate that challenge? Well, I would say in high school, something that was particularly challenging was having my voice heard the way I intended it to be, because I felt like although there were Black people in my high school that I went to, there were a lot of white people. And they tried to be more open, but the challenge I had was always having to reiterate myself and re-explain that they have to hear what I'm hearing and not what they want to hear from me, and to be assertive in that. And I think navigating that challenge, I just had to have time practicing being assertive and standing up for myself.
I think for me, a challenging experience that I had, it was a 6-year season of my life when I was working at a local nonprofit, and I was the only Black full-time employee at the organization of maybe a little over 40 people. And so I endured a lot of trauma at that organization, and it was really, really lonely to be the only. And I feel like a lot of my experiences were, I felt unseen. I felt unheard. And I also felt an immense amount of pressure due to the tokenization of like speaking on behalf of the whole, or being exceptional. That is something that it's taken years to like unlearn and undo out of my nervous system. And it was really challenging. So what changes would you like to see in Tucson?
I think a little less gentrification in some areas. I think Tucson is a very unique place, and we need to do a lot more preserving of certain areas in town. You lose history in neighborhoods and whatnot, so
where this space is located is in a gentrified neighborhood. So that hits really close to home to the Dunbar community. There's so much talent, there's so much creativity, there's just so much goodness. And when we come together and we share our resources and we communicate and we work together, I feel like we're that much more powerful.
Do you feel you have access to Black community and culture in Tucson? And if so, where?
Yeah, my access point is through Dunbar. And it's through all of the people who frequent Dunbar, who support Dunbar, who are doing things at the Dunbar. That's my entry point. And I didn't always have that, but I have that now, so.
I don't know, I can say that I do. Specifically young Black people, I think it's very hard going to university, like trying to find, like there's so few of us everywhere, so it's very hard. Yeah. Tell us about the Black Tucson community and what are its strengths and its opportunities.
I would say the strengths is that, as I said, there is so much creativity in every single person that I have met in Tucson that's Black, like every single person. And so that is a strength. I think the opportunity is for us to figure out ways to maintain strong connections. I think if we're just going on that track, it's just getting stronger.
Yeah.
So what about you?
I would say its strengths are passion, and I think its opportunities are to just allocate time properly so that everyone can get together and we can all be passionate.
What do you love and dislike about Tucson?
I love the weather. I really like the heat. I find it quite comforting sometimes. What I dislike about Tucson, I think sometimes it's just really hard to spread information through the Black community together, and so that's something I don't like.
Yeah, I love the mountain views. I do also love the sun. I do love the heat. And I love just there's so many places that you can go out to in nature here. There's lots of hiking spots. What do you think is the biggest difference between you and your partner, and what are the commonalities?
I think that we meet people where they're at. I think that's very good. We are very intuitive. Our differences, I think, are just how we approach things. I think maybe I'm analytical, whereas I think you process things more emotionally and heartfelt.
Yep, you took the words right out of my mouth. I would say the same thing. I think that because I'm emotion driven, I can sometimes tend to be on the impulsive side, as to where it's such a gift that you kind of sit back, you observe, you listen, you watch, and then you strategically move in. And so I think that balances us out and us working together. And the commonalities, yeah, I would say we both are sensitive and empathetic, and we're both really invested in doing things well.
Where do you see yourself at the age of your storytelling partner? I want to hear you first.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 19.
I was still very much just in survival mode, and I would probably tell myself to get into therapy sooner. And to just relax, because everything you think you're not going to survive, you actually will, and you'll come out the other side thriving. And I wish that somebody would have told me that, and I would have been way less fearful.
I think for me, as 31, I don't know how to picture myself. I don't know how to picture time that way.
I can picture you at 31.
But I would like to resemble you. I think that the way you move through things with grace. And so how I end up, as long as I'm doing it with grace and doing it like you, I think I should be fine.
All right, so final question. What do you appreciate about the other person across from you? And what do you appreciate about yourself?
I appreciate your kindness. I think it's very specific to you and your experience compared to other people. It feels very homey and heart-touching. And I like that I am more self-asserting and determined. I think maybe it wasn't something I had in the past.
I appreciate you for so many things. Just who you are as a person. I just feel like you are just the strongest, smartest, most intelligent, beautiful person. Definitely 18-year-old that I know.
19.
And 19. And what I appreciate about myself, some people say that I'm like a Disney princess bouncing about.
Yes, that resonated.
Right, just like, la, 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 talking to the birds and stuff. And I used to hate that about myself, and I so badly wanted to be different. And now I absolutely love that about myself because I have the audacity to keep dreaming of a better world, the audacity to keep seeking out pleasure and joy, the audacity to keep laughing and smiling. And that there is so much strength in that, and I am so proud of myself for that.
It was